Howdy strangers, and hopefully devs. I'm aware I'm a little late to the party with my review, but that's because I actually wanted to try out the update and get some experience behind it before giving my verdict. I've probably dropped about 30 hours or so into Operation Phoenix so far, with a healthy chunk being dropped into both open world and PvP. Now, originally, I wasn't planning on making a review because, quite frankly, who cares, and everyone else has already beaten it to death, but someone encouraged me to make this, so here we are. Quick little disclaimer though, I'm going to be giving my unfiltered opinions on things. I am not a developer and I have zero experience making a game, so if I say something that sounds completely insane, I'd highly encourage devs to message me on Discord in private. It's the same name as my YouTube, and, just have a chat with me. I'm also going to be genuine with my compliments, and even more genuine with my insults. If there's something that I complain about, I will try to give constructive criticism, but I'm not perfect, and sometimes I just want to complain. With this long-winded intro out of the way, let's jump right into my review, and I apologize if things jump around a lot. I have ADHD brain, and it's very hard for me to focus on one topic at a time. What better place to start my review with than the main menu itself? It is probably one of the best main menus we've ever had. The UI is sleek, easy to follow, and you can actually see your character and equip weapon. The little background section is the nice little detail. It's just nice, it's clean, it looks great. I know it's kind of weird to mention main menus in games, but there's a lot of games that when you first boot it up, you are just bombarded with information, and just the main menu in BRM is very simple and very clean and really easy to follow. And while I'm here, by the way, I wanted to bring up the intro cinematic. It's kind of cool, and I'm glad the devs had a foresight to, make it so we can hit spacebar and skip it, because after the first time watching it, it's like, whatever, I don't want to see it anymore. But cool little intro cinematic. But of course, problems start to arise whenever you go to the loadout section. This is where things get very, very complicated. Let me just say though, customization is an all-time high, and many quality of life changes are absolutely phenomenal. Plenty of things to not only be done with your gun itself, but also just your character. There's so many options, and it's really, really great to see. Being able to mix and match uniforms is amazing, and morale patches are an addition that I myself have been wanting for a very long time. I'm a big fan of some of the more goofy ones, of course, but it's cool to see, and I really hope we get some more in the future. Maybe for some content creators, maybe. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I will say this though, I really, really would like to see content creator patches be a thing. And if everyone else but me gets one added, hey, I'll take it. That's awesome. I think more community inclusion would be phenomenal. I understand if that risk does not want to be taken, though, for a wide variety of reasons. I completely get that. But I think it'd be really, really cool and be a small little, token of appreciation to the community. So I will say that not everything is perfect, because some things are missing from previous operations, such as the Aela helmet. Maybe it'll come in a future update. I don't know. But the big Russian titanium helmet that's like a big brick, it was goofy. I loved it. And that's pretty much why I liked it, was just because it was goofy. And the scarf is also gone. I loved both of the Aela helmet and the scarf. They were actually a part of my primary outfit through some of the operations. Pretty much through all of Resurgence, I wore a scarf, and now it's gone. If it comes back, hey, that'd be really cool. But we've got the ski mask now, and I guess I understand, scarf's not really... Whatever. It'd be cool to see it back. I don't know really why it was gone in the first place. I don't think it was that big of a deal to remove. But who knows? But maybe I don't know. But that is a very minor complaint, all things considered. That's not a top concern to me. But, it'd be kind of cool to see them back, because, more customization options is always great to me. So now we move on to the weapon part of this. And this is kind of where a lot of my gripes but also praise comes from. I'm going to start with the good here. Some of my favorite features is to be able to hide all the stuff on here on your screen, so you can just have your clean look of your gun. This is very, very good for thumbnail making, by the way. This is great, and foresight to add this, absolutely phenomenal. And also being able to paste from your different loadout sections, so I could be like, oh, well, I want my PvE build for my MP7 or something like that. That's also phenomenal. Same thing with the reset view is kind of whatever. You don't really need to use it, but being able to reset all your attachments at once is phenomenal, because I don't have to go through every single attachment, remove it. Just so many good quality of life changes. Same thing as being able to simply drag your attachments and move them further down the rail. Very, very nice. Love to see that. Amazing addition. But I think it's also fair for me to bring up the fact that there is a lot of information on this screen that you are just absolutely bombarded with. We're not even gonna talk about this section right here just yet. But I mean, just like going to like, well, maybe the MP7 is not the best idea. I think it's mostly for like AKs and ARs, which kind of makes sense because they're kind of like the Barbie doll of, you know, gun nerds. So let me see if I can find a M4. Yeah, M4. Like you go here and bam. 15 bajillion, you know, grips, 15 bajillion grips, flashlight, rails, and I know you can filter, which is also amazing, but so many magazines, so many optics, so many risers, so many, you know, muzzle devices, so many suppressors, so many stock, so many, it's like, it's cool to have these options, but it also makes me really set, okay, I can't hit back now, what did I do? Okay, yeah, whatever, bug, whatever, it's fine. So, like, it's really, really cool to see, you know, a whole bunch of customization for the M4A1 and AK-74 and, you know, all the stuff like that. But then you go to the AS Val, and you just have default options for, like, everything. Stock, barrel, handguard, magazine, it's all the same. And I understand that maybe the AS Val is not as modular as those guns, but it's kind of sad to see. You know, I mean, maybe they have plans in the future, but it's kind of sad to see that some guns have, like, the absolute customization of everything in the world, and maybe it's just because they're more modular, and if that's the case, so be it. You know, I'll shut up and stand to the side, but I'm not like, I don't know every single little, you know, attachment we can ever have on these guns, but I do want to point out that in the past, we did used to have handguard options for the AS Val. You could put grips on these things, and now they're not here, and that's what I'm kind of confused about. Same thing with the stocks. We used to have stocks, and now we don't. The magazine, 30 round magazine got taken away a long time ago, whatever. Not gonna complain about that. That happened. But yeah, there's just so many things that have changed with the loadout menu, and while the customization options is great, there is definitely a reason why guides on literally just how to put a suppressor on your gun is doing super well on YouTube right now. So many people just don't understand how to do it, and granted, this took me, even myself, like this took me a while to figure out how everything works and stuff like that, and now that I've gotten to figure it out and understand how it works, I do appreciate it. But it is very complicated to get into and is not a fun experience. So now we get to talk about this side over here. This is there's a lot of good about it, but there's also a lot of bad. So I'm sure there definitely is a group of people who do appreciate this attention to detail with ballistic coefficiency and dispersion and stuff like that. And you know what? Honestly, shout out to all 7 people who saw ballistic coefficient and dispersion on their weapon stat sheet and like freaking cheered and was like just celebrated. They were like, oh my god, I've been wanting this for so long. Like, that's awesome. But you know, I already graduated. I don't want to deal with polynomials anymore. You can't make me. Not happening. And if any dev other than KitGat or MB can explain to me what a ballistic coefficient is in English, then I'll take back everything I've said, you know. But honestly, I don't think it needs to be here. Or at least it could be put underneath an advanced stat sheet tab. Because there's a lot of stuff here that is just kind of here for no reason, it feels like. I think recoil breakdown is kind of one of them, because I feel like this chart lies. Because like sometimes you'll change, whatever. It's not I'm not going to go into that. I don't think it really works entirely, which might just be a bug, but I also feel like it just lies. But yeah, just having like so many just random little stats that I don't think is very important to you is kind of weird to see. And it kind of kills me inside whenever like I'm trying to read the damage graph and I can't hover over it and see exactly what distance my gun stops one-shotting head. That is very, very annoying. And I don't like to make the comparison, but I think Phantom Forces has a very good damage graph that I would absolutely flourish in BRM5 if it was implemented. Genuinely, if it was just stolen, like just straight up just copy and paste it over into BRM5, it'd be super, super nice to have. Because seeing exactly what distance my gun stops, you know, like being of 4-shot length or 2-shot torso, like the M4A1, it has 2-shot torso. At a certain distance, it's not going to be 2-shotting torso anymore. Same thing with 1-shot head. At a certain distance, it's not going to be 1-shotting head anymore. And I'd like to know at what distance exactly that's going to stop happening. But yeah, I think honestly just also having an advanced tab here could clean up a lot of this stuff as well. Saying like you could put the recoil breakdown, you could put draw time, ADS time, reload times underneath that, because not a lot of people are really going to care for that unless they're trying to absolutely min-max the hell out of their build, which, you know, kudos to them if they want to do that. But I just feel like there's a lot of unnecessary information here that a lot of people are never going to use and just kind of clutters up kind of important information. Like having, the ballistic tab, like having the ammunition that you're using, kind of cool. It's not really going to be that impactful because you kind of already have an idea of what your gun probably fires to begin with. But, kind of cool to have. Muzzle velocity and range is, good to have as well. But also your range can literally just be seen on the chart itself. So kind of useless, but I'd rather have it than not. Rate of fire and fire modes are good to have, whatever. But there's just, I don't know. Just maybe put in an advanced tab, clean this up a little bit. Could be a good idea, but it's not the most important thing in the world. Additionally, every day I laugh at the fact that muzzle velocity and range uses like studs and like studs per second, while the graph itself uses feet as a unit of, measurement. So like I now have to make a conversion using a made up unit to figure out how fast the bullet goes, and depending on where you're from, aka everywhere but America, feet is also a made up unit. Let me just start off the PvP segment by stating that I'm very happy people stay in your party after a match. I love that it is here, but I also hate that it was never fixed in the entirety of Resurgence because we used to have it beforehand. So, whatever. I really would like a reason as to why it was never fixed, but whatever. Fine, we'll move on. Anyways, moving on to the actual meat of PvP, which is the gunplay. The gunplay is okay. I feel like the new recoil system is just way more attuned for open world and wasn't really thought about for PvP at all, which is, whatever. PvP is an afterthought anyways. I've enjoyed mostly learning it. It's just okay. It's very clearly meant more for open world, it feels like. Also, the balancing has been surprisingly fairly good for PvP. This is probably one of the first times where a majority of the guns are fairly usable and don't feel like you're at a massive disadvantage for using them. There still is a massive outlier with the M1014 being completely busted at the moment. But it's also like slightly inconsistent with its spread, but that barely matters at all because the thing is just completely busted beyond belief, and it's probably the best version of the Benelli / M1014 we've ever had in the game. And that's pretty much where my compliments end with PvP, unfortunately. I'm going to break down every map itself and talk about them in a little bit, but I also think I really, really want to talk about the movement. Quick little side notes, by the way, the new ammo system, with it being magazine-based rather than just a massive reserve ammo pool, is kind of good and kind of bad. I think it helps prevent people just pre-firing like every single angle, but you also hardly live long enough with one-shot head for it to really matter. And also, please let us change our guns mid-round or while spectating during a PvP match. This is once again one of those things where we've had it before, and it's kind of inexcusable we don't have it now. Please, I am begging you at this point. And also, I can hardly see anything playing in PvP a lot of the time, especially during nighttime, even with night vision, and maybe this is just me, and maybe I need glasses. I play on max graphics a lot of the time, but there just really feels like there needs to be more lights on a majority of the maps, or just no nighttime, because there's so many dark corners, especially on NYC, we have to check so many angles, and if it's nighttime, you're just screwed as an attacker, you can't see anything. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the movement is probably the biggest issue with PvP currently, along with, ADS speed and kind of, draw time and stuff like that. Mostly ADS speed, though. And this kind of ties in with the ammunition thing, where the new movement feels like it's momentum-based, and you can't really quick peek anything. Every corner you turn, you have to fully commit with, and now that it takes a while to ADS and draw up your gun, you're heavily encouraged to pre-aim everything, and that's exactly what I do now. So why is this a problem, right? Whatever, just do a slight adjustment to your playstyle. Well, as much as I hate to admit it, you're heavily encouraged to camp now in the game, and it just sucks. I mean, as a defender, you just pick a corner with your newfound M1014 and wait for attackers to come to you. You can no longer quickly swing anything, and even unrealistic as it was, you have no options to really dodge bullets. You can't, jump around, you can't flick off of boxes and stuff. I understand that was, very abusable and, was definitely not intentional, but in a weird way, it was kind of a part of PvP. It was kind of the, glitches to it. So, realistically, as an attacker, you have two options when peeking an angle. You can either slow peek and have your gun ready to return fire because you're already ADS'd. Have your gun up and, slow peek an angle and be able to return fire to an enemy or multiple enemies who are already peeking you and ready to shred you to pieces. Or you can quick peek and sprint through and try to catch them off guard, but now your gun is down and you have to deal with the lethargic speed of trying to bring it up when, once again, those enemies are already waiting for you and will shred you. So, what's your option as an attacker? Well, you can pretty much just camp and just hope that, the defenders will push you, which oftentimes I found in public lobbies they absolutely will because no one is patient enough to really just sit and wait. I understand, but at the same time, if you want to do well, just sit in a corner and wait for people to peek you. There's not much they can do about it. Um, so, as much crap as we gave PvP during Resurgence about not being good, we definitely still did enjoy it because it was basically just going off of Viper and it was pretty much the same thing. And I think that's kind of why a lot of people were like, the game's bad. It was just because it was pretty much just Viper PvP. There was nothing that they really changed about it. It was just kind of the same game for us PvP players. And to be honest, the only way I could think of making PvP good again is just to revert how the ADSing was or is currently, where it's so slow to do so. There's no like, just quick ADSing. You have to take everything it's just, man, everything is super, super slow. And that was kind of a very fun part of PvP. It was a healthy balance. Well, maybe not healthy, but it was an interesting balance of both arcadey and kind of realism. I hesitate to really use realism, but the realism being really the only mechanic for that was just having like one life. So like your life kind of mattered actually in PvP, but now it's just like, okay, you're really, really slow, so you're kind of just screwed as an attacker a lot of the times, or, just basically pre-aim everything or just camp in a corner. That's what you want to do if you want to do well. You definitely can still kind of do that running gun mechanics like you do in Viper and stuff like that. And if you have the aim to back it up, you definitely can. But once again, if you want to do that, you also just still need to pre-aim everything. There's no way of getting around the pre-aim stuff. You need to do that. So really, the only thing I can think of to make PvP good again is just to revert how ADSing is and how the movement was, but I know it's not as simple as just doing that. I know you can't really have, or probably shouldn't have, different movement in open world and PvP. So, I don't know. We might just be screwed as PvP players. Currently, it's interesting because it's like, this is probably one of the best PvPs we've ever had with the least amount of bugs, which, I mean, there still are bugs, and I'm going to talk about them. This is probably the least amount of bugs and the best hit reg we've ever had, but everything else just kind of sucks or is mediocre at best. So a very interesting side effect I've also noticed with the new movement and everyone being like pretty slow is that the snipers are actually in the best state they've ever been. Snipers still aren't great for PvP, but it's so much easier to line up those headshots because people can't move very fast and don't really have any movement. So it's very easy to line up those headshots and just drop people. Once again, much rather have an assault rifle or something like that. But snipers are definitely in their best state they've ever been, which is kind of weird and kind of shows kind of how bad the movement is right now. Anyways, I know this really isn't anything that the devs can fix, but I want to vent about it because anyone who's played PvP before this update knows exactly what I mean. And it's that my teammates feel like they're all playing on the International Space Station. Don't get me wrong, man. New players discovering the game is great, but wow, I am scared of future drivers because with this reaction time I'm seeing, there's going to be a crash at every single intersection. I mean, it is very, very bad. I understand that's kind of why we had skill-based matchmaking to begin with, and maybe you can't do that now because you have infinite levels and whatever, whatever. It's very, very strange. I'm glad new players are finding the game and trying it out, but the amount of times I've been put on a team with everybody else on my team having the stock loadout and just M16A2s, it's like, damn, I'm screwed, huh? And now, before I go into breaking down every single PvP map, I also want to discuss the bugs with PvP. There's pretty much been 3 major ones that I just want to cover. Number 1 being failing to load into a match. This is whatever. Like, it happens every single operation. It happens every single update. And it seems like a cockroach of a bug that just can't be killed. Or maybe it's intentional that the match just fails to work. Whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. I'm not a dev, of course. But it's existed for the longest time and is still very, very annoying to this day. Second, of course, is people just like not loading in after a round ends. Like if you win or lose, the game will just freeze on the win or round loss screen until that person leaves or it just fixes on its own. This is a very, very annoying bug, and it basically just comes down to a war of attrition to see which team will reset completely first or that person will leave. I've had times where, I mean, even whenever just recording this background footage, there was a 4-minute wait on that because no one wanted to budge. So I was stuck on a 4-minute long round 1 or, the round winning or round loss screen just because the person wouldn't leave. It just became a war of attrition at that point, and that was absolutely miserable to deal with. And third and most important one is, of course, wall glitching. Apparently this one has been fixed. I just want to say, if this is true, thank you very much. This is great. I originally was going to ignore it in my review, but I think it's actually very, very important to note just because of how long a bug like that has been in the game and just basically just existed for the longest time. But rather than the old glitches we had, like I just mentioned, wall glitching where you'd have to basically prone facing away from the wall, do a 180, and then quickly stand up to go through the wall. And you were basically in the walls. And you could see through it. You couldn't do anything else, though. You could just see through the walls, basically, and just kind of watch people run on by. But yeah, with Operation Phoenix, they somehow made it a bajillion times even easier to glitch in PvP. Not only could you just look through walls just by laying down, you could also just shoot through them. This made PvP an absolute miserable experience once people found this out, and it was like this for about like a week or so. If this is completely fixed now, great job, but at the same time, why did it take us multiple years to fix this bug that existed way back in Viper and Resurgence? Alright, so now moving on to map breakdowns, we're going to go ahead and talk about Tokyo, and I felt like once again we start off with the good parts of PvP relating to maps, and then move on to the worst parts. And Tokyo is pretty much perfect. I mean, it's been such a great map since it came out way back in Nightfall, I believe, maybe... Yeah, Nightfall sounds about right. Yeah, it came back way back in Nightfall, and it's been pretty much perfect. The only thing they really changed here in Tokyo since Phoenix is this little alleyway right here. We used to not have this, and this was one of those things that was like, we didn't know we needed it until we got it, and this has been probably the best change ever. It's just adding on to the perfection of what Tokyo already is. I absolutely love this thing. I use it all the time on offense. I use it all the time on defense. If I'm feeling risky and, come up through here and then go down through here, sometimes I can go through here and get a little bit of a sneaky flank on people, here or, over here in these boxes. But there's also a risk of that because people who are over here can just gun me down, or, people who are late over here on offense side can gun me down. So, like, there is risk to, trying to take that side as a defender. But as an attacker, it's relatively risk-free because you can come through here and then you can be like, oh, well, I want to make sure, maybe like if I'm going this way, then I'm like, well, actually, I don't want to go this way. And then I can rotate around through here. And of course, the risk of rotating around is that, defenders are going to be up here, maybe watching, big open area right here. Whatever. There's pros and cons of going there, and I mean, it's just great. Another thing as well is that if there is a defender that wants to hold down this area right here, they can't pretty much just hold down that choke as easy, because let's face it, if you're an attacker right here and you're trying to, crossfire all the way up through here, it's pretty hard to hit each other. Unless you've got really, really good aim, more than likely a lot of you are going to be missing a lot of shots. So, your best option is pretty much just peek up here as an attacker if you want to gain that position. And of course, that's a lot closer, so they're probably going to be expecting that, whatever. So this little angle right here catches a lot of people off guard, especially because as an attacker, once again, with me trying to do that route as a defender to get through here to go to this staircase so I can take control of this middle area, as an attacker, you can already be here. And of course, a lot of the times I'm going to be expecting people to be in this big alleyway right here, but so many people, like right here, this is where I expect people to be, and right here, this is where I expect people to be. People who just peek this really quick and can just easily gun me down. Like, it is such a great way to catch people off guard. It's super, super good. I don't know, Tokyo's amazing. I love Tokyo. I've always liked this map. I've always thought it was one of the best maps in the game. And this little area right here they added is phenomenal. And honestly, there's nothing I'd change about Tokyo. Tokyo is pretty much perfect right now. One thing I was worried about is that this little fence right here at Defender Spawn, we used to have it that it would reach the sky and you could not drop down if you were on objective, because you used to be able to just wiggle up the wall as a defender because it was a bug in the game. You could wiggle up the wall and basically just get here instantly. Like in a couple seconds, you could already be here instead of having to take this long route on around that takes 5 seconds to do so, or maybe 7, whatever. So I'm really glad that that's just a fence now. So if you're an attacker and you're on OBJ and all of a sudden things get a little bit too dicey, you can just drop down here. Or as a defender, you could also just drop down here and rotate around. It's great. I'm really glad the fence is back. I really, really love it. It's something that I've been missing. But yeah, I mean, Tokyo is just perfect, man. There's nothing I really have to say. All the changes they made have been amazing. I've enjoyed them. Yeah. Alright, so next up we have Aela, which is, in my opinion, the second best PvP map in the game right now. And I think it's a little funny to me because for the history of Aela, if you remember back in Viper and, Resurgence and stuff like that, attackers and defender spawn used to flip-flop quite a bit. And it's really funny to see that with new Favela, the same thing is present. Attackers and defender spawn have flipped and flopped back and forth a couple times. So at this point, I don't even know what's intentional at this point. But as we have it, defender spawn is here closer to OBJ and attackers is a little bit further away. But yeah, I really do like it, Favela. I like it a lot. There is one bug right here, right now, where if you're an attacker, you can kind of like jump up on top of these boxes and just glitch into the wall. But I'm sure that'll get fixed soon, so I'm not really going to count that. Objective is a little bit of a nightmare because there's so many angles to check and hold, and so it's not like greatly encouraged. But majority of the time, Favela games for me at least seem to end in, deathmatch basically rather than objective itself, and objectives seem to just kind of bait people, which is kind of how it's always been, so whatever, no big deal. But Favela's great because attackers pretty much get here and defenders get here in relatively the same amount of time. I think defenders get here a little bit earlier and attackers kind of, whatever. So a lot of the timing is really, really good because defenders can get to here in time, and then attackers are about here if they want to stop them there, or defenders could split right through here, and by the time they get here, if they go through here, attackers can be right here. It's very interesting with timing because by the time, if you're a defender and you want to rush down through the little garage area right through here, by the time you get there, if there's also an attacker that's trying to go through here, they're pretty much going to be right at the garage door, and you're going to be right here at OBJ at the exact same time. And then if you take the longer route right here, you go to the truck area as an attacker, then defenders can be right here in this little, garage basically. So timing is very interesting on this map, and I think it matches up very, very well. Because once again, as a defender, you can go right through here and try to cut them off. And attackers can be like right here, and it all meets up really, really well. I was not expecting it to play as well as it does. But I've really, really enjoyed this map. I love it. It's pure chaos. There's a lot of, things going on all at once. Flanking is not hard to do either as a defender. If no attackers go down long here, then defenders can just be like, all right, well, I'll just rotate all the way around. And yes, once again, it's pretty predictable, but still, you can catch people off guard. It's amazing. I really do enjoy Favela. I think it is way better than what we used to have. I do miss old Favela, I will admit, because I did like old Favela. The only problem I had with old Favela was the objective was being absolutely terrible. And this one's still not great, admittedly, but it's better. It's way better because the truck was just absolutely horrendous to deal with. And Favela got a major improvement. And honestly, I kind of hesitate to even call this map Favela because it's not Favela. It's a new map. It's not Favela. I refuse to believe this is like a revamp or a remaster because there's like nothing here that resembles old Favela besides, the set piece being, well, a favela and slum. But yeah, Favela's great. I don't have much to say about it. There's not really much I would change with this. It's just kind of, it's not Tokyo. I don't know if that makes sense to people. It just has a different playstyle about it. Favela's a lot more fast-paced and action-packed, which is fun, but it's not Tokyo in my opinion. Alright, so now we move on to Coastline, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a fan of New Coast. I prefer Old Coast. So what really changed with Coast is that a lot of the alleyways right through here got a lot larger. Like all this stuff got larger and just kind of opened up more, which I'm just gonna be honest, I don't like it. It's very interesting because it feels like defenders have a massive advantage of being able to hold this area down, but attackers also can just like get to OBJ like instantly. Because as an attacker, you can just like basically just beeline straight to OBJ in like, what, 7 seconds or so, maybe 10. And also you get to here, you get to this little spot. As an attacker, you get to this little corner right here, and you can peek straight down through here. So a lot of people who are defenders that are trying to push up and trying to, gain ground are basically just going to get gunned down instantly from you. So like that's a little bit of a tough spot to peek because not only as a defender, if you're trying to go through here, an attacker can be here, an attacker can be here, an attacker can be here. Like there's so many places as a defender that you pretty much just don't even want to push. Like, you don't want to take any ground control as a defender because you can just get ganked by so many different spots all at once. Like, it is absolutely a nightmare to deal with for defenders. But at the same time, defenders kind of have so much, like, they have so much presence just by having this little back area right here. Because as a defender, if you're up here, then you can watch heaven right through here. Right where this area is, you can kind of crossfire on over, and you can also watch this corner right here. If you play your cards, if you stand like right on this railing, you can see the little corner right here. So just by standing up here, you can watch basically the entirety of heaven right here, and you can also just watch down this entire alleyway as well. You can watch down the entire coastline as a defender just by being up there. As well, if you're in this corner, then you have like complete line of sight of OBJ as well and can defend it. Granted, as an attacker, if you kind of position yourself the right way and lay down behind the OBJ, then the defender can't do anything about it. But like, this is such a massive power position for defenders, it's actually just like a nightmare to deal with. And whenever I play Old Coast, a majority of the time I'd actually go down coastline itself. But now I can't do that. It is absolutely a nightmare to push down coast, because if I'm an attacker and I run like right through here and I, go here, or maybe, I take the longer route away and I go up here, I have people who will sit here, I have people who will sit here, I have people who can be in this entirety of this area, and then you have people who will sit like back through here. It's just like, it is such a nightmare. There are so many spots that if you as an attacker are going to peek down coastline itself, then you have to like spot check so many different angles. Like, it is just a nightmare as an attacker to deal with, and I absolutely hate dealing with it. Like, I hate it. Currently, my main strategy of attack on coastline is pretty much run down here, and then I can catch people off guard through this middle angle with defenders trying to push up through this area. I'm sorry if my arrows and like my diagrams and stuff like that are not great. I'm sorry. But basically, as an attacker, I'll drop down through here, and I'll play this staircase. The reason why I do this staircase is because people will push down coastline as a defender, and then I can't get shot in the back here because I'm behind a wall, of course. And so basically, I'll quick peek this, and then I'll catch anyone who's running from this area as a defender. I can shoot them if they're trying to cross, and then I can kill them if they're also trying to cross up here. So basically, I just lock down this entire middle area as an attacker, which is absolutely insane. And then if no one peeks me there, then I do a quick double back and check if anyone is peeking me here, like if any defender is pushing up through coastline, and then I can catch them off guard and then kill them. Like, attackers have such a massive advantage on this map. Like, it's like literally just crazy. Like, defenders literally can't do anything on coastline, it feels like, but pretty much play here. There's nothing else they can really do. There's no map control defenders can take, because if they take this, there's absolutely no cover here. So any attackers that peek this or peek this, they're just going to get gunned down because they have nothing to hide behind. It's just tough for defenders, man. Like, whenever I play defense, I pretty much just sit here, or I'll sit over here, or usually I'll just sit up here, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't do anything on defense. I just sit back and relax and wait for the attackers to come to me, and it usually works. I have not really played much playing up top here because I don't really see much of a point in doing it. It's fairly obvious that you're up there. And I don't know why I would take this route when I could just go ahead and establish so much map control by being an attacker and just sitting here and, locking down this entire middle area. It's like, whatever, man. I don't know. Coastline is just... I don't know, man. It's just, coastline has changed, and I'm not a big fan of it. I don't like it. Coast, it just feels like as a defender, you have to pretty much just sit in your own spawn. There's nothing you can do. And then attackers just take control of everything immediately. Because like I said, as an attacker, if I run like straight down here, usually I just sit here because I don't like to push that out. But after I kill these like couple people, I could just full send and just go straight to OBJ. There's nothing stopping me. The only person that could really stop me is a person here or a person up here. But you know what a counter to that is? It's literally just laying down, because then they can't see you. So then, if you're laying down on OBJ, you're capping, and if you're positioning yourself correctly, this person can't shoot you from heaven, from like their spawn, like up top there. They can't shoot you. And now this person up here has to push you. Like, they can't shoot you, and then of course you can just line up your sights and wait for them to peek, and then dink them right away. It's so attacker-sided. It really is. It's kind of miserable to play on defense. And as defense, it also feels kind of unfair to go up against, because you have so many angles to check if you're going to go down coastline itself. It's weird, man. It's weird, because once again, I don't like playing up top because I feel like it takes too long. Then peeking coastline itself just feels miserable because there's so many angles to check. So I'll just go down middle, and I can just establish so much map control, and it just shuts down everything the defenders can do unless they want to get shot at or take a gunfight with me when I already have the advantage. It's whatever, man. The coastline's just... I don't even know what I would do, really, to fix this, because, honestly, I don't think there is much. If you put cover down on here on coastline, then that just gives defenders even more stuff to hide behind and kind of, have even more spots to check for attackers. But right now, as an attacker, I would, just never push down coast itself. It's just bad. Not good. Don't do it. Alright, so here we have the worst map in the game currently, NYC. And for those of you who do not know, I actually did help with this map a little bit. I helped design it a little bit. So I'm gonna be harsh on my own map. It's not like I'm gonna be easy on it, be like, oh, this map is so good because I helped with it. No, it is. There's problems with it, man, and I am going to definitely be harsh on it. Objective is a complete nightmare. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that now. We can acknowledge that. Also, there's not really much. How do I put this? Okay, playing as an attacker, there is two ways that I like to go about playing NYC. I like to go through here, and I like to go through here. I like to go down this death hallway, and I will acknowledge this is a death hallway because that was kind of the point of it. And then going down through garage, pretty much. Garage is my other route that I like to take. I know staircase is pretty popular. I just don't do it. These are pretty much my two main routes as an attacker. My problem with going down garage here is that it takes so much time that as a defender, you can literally be here before me. So by the time as an attacker, like if I'm an attacker and I'm going to garage, by the time I'm here, as a defender, you can already be here. Like just because of how long it takes how long it takes as an attacker to get here compared to how long it takes as a defender to get here. Like you could just post up as a defender before an attacker can even really be like in the garage at all. So as a defender, you can pretty much post up on these boxes. If you're fast enough, you can pretty much have the entirety of cover with this truck here. It's great to have. Great, map control, of course. And as an attacker, you're kind of just screwed. And then, of course, as you have the death hallway. This is infamous, right? Everyone loves the death hallway, I'm sure. It is something, man. I like the death hallway. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I know it's not great. A lot of people hate it, and that's fair for them. I think as a defender, you have way more options to hide behind. You of course can swing here. You can swing further back. You can swing in this corner. You can be here. Like there's so many angles to check as an attacker going here that it's just way better as a defender to hold this position than it. Objective's just a nightmare. Like it really all just boils down to the objective, because pretty much as an attacker you have two routes that you can relatively safely get to, which that being the staircase and that being garage, because death hallway is just completely terrible to go down as an attacker because once again there's just so many angles to check. And even if you do clear out this little area right here, then guess what? You have people that might be on top of the taxi and you have people that might be in this corner. So once again, you're still having to check like 50 bajillion spots just as an attacker just to do a relatively small flank. So yeah, you have staircase and you have garage, which even then, garage is absolutely terrible because once again, you have 50 bajillion angles to check if you're an attacker here. You have this corner right here. You have this corner. You have this corner. You have this corner. You have long. You have... It's just bad, man. It really is just terrible, and I will acknowledge that. One thing I do not like about objective right now is that you can actually get up here as the defender. This little green area right here, there's no invisible barrier. So... as a defender, if you go through here and then you hop up on here and then hop up on here and you stand here, you can see the top of staircase. As a defender, you can see the top of staircase from here to here. You can see over this wall. So either they need to put an invisible barrier here, which I would much rather prefer, or they raise this wall right here higher so that way you can't see the top of staircase. Personally, I would much rather have it so that way... I would much rather have it that this is just walled off, because just because of how much like bushes there are right there, it's a nightmare to it's just a nightmare to clear just because of all the plants in the way. So yeah, like what do I even have to say about defense here? Like it's so like the defense is just the way to go, man. Defense is how you win. There's so many angles that you can check, like you can cover from. Objective is just terrible. I mean, what do I have to say? There's also a little spot right here on trash bags right now. If you stand on top of that, you can actually see over this wall. And you basically do a little bit of head glitch, and you can see this entire part. You have a massive cone of vision of the OBJ right now. It's a nightmare. Yeah. There's really not much to say about NYC. It's just bad. From objective is just a nightmare to do. I do enjoy the fast pace of it, I will say that, but as a defender, you really have no reason to try and push forward and try to take map control, because you can just let all the attackers come to you, and you have all the angles in the world to play around with to catch them off guard from. So I will be honest with you all, there's not a lot I can really say about the animations and sounds, which is a great thing. All of the sounds and animations aren't jarring at all, and they fit perfectly within the game. Everything looks and sounds nice, but if I had to make a comment about it, I'm a little disappointed with how some of the snipers sound in the game. With the M24 being like the biggest criminal for it, it just kind of sounds underwhelming. I don't know, I feel like it lacks a lot of that punch it used to have. I'd kind of like more of like a sharper or more powerful sound. I'm not a big sound designer, but I really did love how the M24 sounded way back in Viper. And I definitely agree that, you know, the guns now, like, I understand, you know, Viper level of sound design quality was not the same. It's not the same quality we have now. And I greatly appreciate the increase in sound quality we have now. But I definitely did enjoy that sharper sound effect that Viper sniper had. They were super loud and very kind of like threatening almost, if that makes any sense. But this is really like not that big of a deal at all, and if nothing ever changes, I'm not gonna like complain about it. I'm not gonna whine about it. Like it's okay. The same thing with like having no running animation for the knives. It's such a minor detail that like it does not matter, but it's something I noticed, and whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I'd also like weapon inspects to come back. You know, that'd be cool too. But I understand if that's not a high priority, it's whatever. Once again, these are very minor complaints. So sound design and animations, fantastic job. They've all been great. I've never had a single problem. Everything fits in within BRM5. Nothing catches me off guard. It all feels in place. I will say though, the Deagle I am very kind of like sad about with its firing sound. It does not sound powerful at all. It sounds very flimsy. But that empty reload, oh my god, that's so good. This is genuinely like one of the best empty reloads I've ever seen in a game, it feels like. Just the way the gun like slams, you know, like into battery. I think that's the right word for it. Just, oh my god, that slider release and the clicking, it's good. It's good, man. I'm a huge fan of the animations of the Deagle. I just wish it was louder and had more of a punch to it. God, that's like crack to me, man. I love seeing that. Alright, so the last thing I wanted to talk about for BRM5 was open world. For literally every other thing I've talked about so far, I've had a script or at least some kind of notes to talk about. Open world, I have absolutely nothing. And the majority of that is just because I spent so long on this video and I'm so tired and I kind of just want it done at this point. But yeah, we're going to talk about open world. I think the best part to start out with is the stealth mechanic. That is probably the biggest feature we've had in forever, for open world especially. And it's, okay. The biggest thing with open world right now for me is when open world works, it works. But when it doesn't, it is bad. And it is miserable. Bugs really do bring it down for me. And I feel like that's also for everyone as well. I will say that I am very proud of the devs for, you know, for listening to community feedback, quickly patching out bugs, working their hardest, especially since they've already spent so long working on the update to begin with, and then they have to do so much maintenance now that the update is finally out. Absolutely phenomenal, all the work they've put in. I greatly appreciate it. I don't know if everyone else does, but I greatly appreciate it. Truly is commendable behavior. I will say though that even if well, this kind of was a thing that, like, whenever the update first dropped, like in the first week, they were pumping out patch notes like every single day. I'm sure they are still working on bugs and fixing it out, but I would still like continuous patch notes because I don't like hunt down and track literally every single message that happens in the PL5 Discord server. So I would like to see official patch notes being posted still and just being like, hey, there's no new content or anything, but we've patched out all these bugs that you all have reported. I think community feedback like that is very important, and it's stuff that I'd really like to see. Anyways, that's not really talking about open world, so we're going to go ahead and talk about stealth. Stealth is absolutely awesome. I'm going to go ahead and talk about all this assuming that the game is working perfectly. Oftentimes, it is not, and that is a big problem with open world right now, but once again, they're working on it. I'm giving them time. But I do have to acknowledge that bugs exist. When open world works, it is absolutely phenomenal. The AI is way more challenging, and there's been a lot of complaints about people being like, I can't solo everything anymore. And well, one, that's a skill issue. Two, I actually really like it. I think the challenge is absolutely amazing and has been something that I've been wanting for the longest time in open world. The biggest problem with me for open world for the longest time is that it was just way too boring. There was no skill to doing open world. There was no challenge. It was the most easy thing in the world. It was just turning off my brain. And especially for someone like me who has already have everything unlocked, open world was just supposed to be kind of like a grind game mode, really. That's what it always seemed like to me. That was always kind of a grind game mode. So whenever I already have everything unlocked, it's like, why would I play open world? Why would I shoot AI? It was great for background footage. That's why, I mean, if I needed background footage for a video, I'd just go play open world because it's the easiest thing in the world because, you know, whatever. So open world stealth mechanics, whenever it works, it's absolutely phenomenal. I will admit, I have not played I've not spent a single second in a public open world server. I've not done any of it. All I've done has been solo lobbies or, you know, servers with, you know, my group of friends, and I've enjoyed it when it works. I think all the locations are very cool. The AI having variations is super cool. Once again, kind of makes me sad that a lot of the guns that they have, like the PPSH, the Mosin Nagant, the, you know, the PP-19 Bison or whatever. I wish there were guns that we could have. I understand that Mosin Nagant and, you know, like the PPSAs, they're not used by real military, so we can't have them in the game. I understand that, but you know, a man can dream, a man can hope, a man can think it'll be cool. So yeah, I genuinely do think open world's amazing. I've enjoyed raiding all the locations I have. A lot of them have been very fun. Quarry has just been ruined for me completely. With the amount of bugs I've had to do and the multiple times I've had to do it for videos and stuff like that, it's been an absolute miserable experience. I think Quarry was amazing. Here's what I'll say. All the locations I have raided, I have absolutely loved the first time. They've all been interesting because it is new to me. It is something challenging. It is amazing. But Quarry especially was one of those things where it was just so filled with bugs that it just grated on me. It just got worse and worse and worse and just wore me down. And I mean, I was just miserable. I was not enjoying open world. And that's really the biggest thing with open world for me right now. It is a complete 50-50. Whenever it works, phenomenal. Absolutely perfect. I enjoy open world. And that's really saying something because I've hated open world for the longest time. So the devs being able to make me a PvP player for like 4 years enjoy open world is truly a fantastic task to complete. I'm not going to say I'm going to completely convert. That's not ever happening. But it is very good. And maybe that's also because PvP also really sucks right now. So, you know, open world looks a lot better. Whatever. But once again, when open world doesn't work, it is the most frustrating thing ever. But it is still really cool to see a lot of the new enemy types. I think the melee AI are pretty fun, and they're really silly just because they're pretty quiet. They don't make any sound, and they just run up and smack you. If you see them, you know, they're like, oh, haha, you know, whatever, easy kill. But if you don't, oh, you're gonna get snuck up on, man. And, or you know, the AI having RPGs and stuff like that, really funny. Same thing with mortars. Mortars are awesome. A variety of enemies and also just kind of different things that you're being shot by is really fun. And it is definitely the most engaging open world experience I've ever had. It is the most fun I've ever had. It is the most difficulty I've ever had. And that's really what makes me enjoy it. Also, the inventory system is really cool. I don't mind, you know, having to pay for like the medicines and stuff like that, just because, you know, I have money. I've got 2 million cash. I have that all saved up. I'm not going to use it for anything else because I've already bought every single thing in the game. Whatever, you know. I just like, I don't know what to say about open world. It is definitely interesting. I think the inventory system's really cool. Backpacks and the trunks of vehicles having a function now is absolutely crazy, and that's really cool to me. I didn't even know that it existed until, you know, people pointed it out in my comment section. That's really awesome. Yeah, there's not much I can really say about open world. It's the best open world we've ever had. But really, until all these bugs get ironed out, it's kind of a mediocre experience because bugs really do ruin it for me. But otherwise, open world's phenomenal, man. They've done a fantastic job, and I really do appreciate all the time and effort they put into it. But I think that's going to wrap up my review. I don't really have much I can say. I think that this is this is an update of all time, man. That's genuinely what I can rate this as. It's just an update of all time. It's got a lot of good, but there's still so much bad with it. And maybe a lot of that is just because it's new stuff. And you know what? If that's the case, that's fair. But I also like to imagine it is currently the 20th of December I'm recording this and editing this on. So I like to think that at this point I'm past the honeymoon phase where I'm looking at everything through rose-tinted glasses and things have kind of like finally settled in. And maybe my opinions will change in the future. But hey, I've already given the update plenty of time, I feel like, and have put a lot of time into not only making videos, but just kind of trying new things out and, really engaging myself. Because typically, once again, I only play PvP for the updates. So the fact that BRM5 devs have me playing open world is truly that is really a great task to accomplish. Because open world is fun, it is good when it works.